Hi, in this video, we'll be doing a quick introduction to data analysis with Python using generative AI. This is the week 4 recap for a 10-week generative AI program that I'm doing currently at a college. The dataset that we'll be working with is pretty standard, has been there for a very long time. The global Superstore orders dataset, we've got around 15 columns. We've got around 51,200 rows, and we have order date, ship date, city, state, country, some geographic data, region, market, category, segment, subcategory, and then we have sales, quantity, discount, and profit. Now, one can do an analysis on this in Excel, in Power BI, in Tableau. Why Python? Since we have uh, generative AI as a technology reachable and accessible to everyone, right, at free, right? You don't even need to get the paid version to do a lot of stuff. So it makes more sense and it becomes slightly easier to jump into something new that you had not tried earlier before. That is why I decided to cover this as part of my week 4 curriculum for my students. Now, if you're someone who's never done programming, that's absolutely fine. The idea of this session is not to teach you Python necessarily, although I'll be explaining the code that is being generated. Now, I don't come from a programming background. I have a bachelor in commerce, and I've done my MBA, then I started my career in sales. So, if you feel that programming is a little overwhelming for you as well, then I've been there. So, the idea of this session is to just introduce how to use ChatGPT in this case specifically. You can do it with any other tool. You can do it Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, whatever other tool you want to work with to generate Python code for doing data analysis. I'll be walking you through my approach on how I analyze any file that I have, any data that I have, and we'll be doing this step by step. Now, we'll not be installing Python on our system, just for everyone's ease. We'll be doing it on Google Colab. If you're new to this website, you can just go to colab.google.com and we'll open a new page. On the page, it'll ask you to create a new notebook. If this pop-up does not come, just go to File and choose New Notebook in Drive. And you should have something like this. Once you have, it'll be called Untitled. You can just rename it. This is the extension .ipynb. It means nothing but a interactive Python notebook. Py for Python, nb for notebook. You can write your code here. You can click on this button to run your code. That's it. Now, we'll not be writing code like I said. Now, Google Colab is from Google, so it has Gemini inbuilt, but I'll not be using Gemini for this case. I will be relying on ChatGPT. So let's get started. Now, in analytics, generally there are essentially five stages. Generally, we refer to the 4 stages. So we have descriptive, diagnostic, then we have predictive, then we have prescriptive. When I was preparing for my Power BI exam, PL300, I was going through I have done a lot of projects in Power BI. I was teaching the course which is preparation for the Power BI exam at a college as well. And through that, I got the opportunity to run through or read through the entire documentation. And now one of the pages that I like to refer to, especially to students, is this one. It's called Overview of Data Analysis, which talks about the 5 stages of data analytics. It's a very interesting page, and the whole documentation is very interesting. In fact, the first chapter, I don't know what this is called. Basically, this one, getting started with Microsoft Data Analytics, is not like focused completely on Power BI. It links up to Power BI, but for a general purpose read also, it is very interesting. So, overview of data analysis, and we have 5 stages essentially. We've got descriptive analytics, we've got diagnostic. Descriptive is just mentioning what has happened. Diagnostic is identifying the why behind it. Predictive is predicting something that will happen based on historical data. Prescriptive analytics is when you are a bit into the data science side, where you have models and some algorithms that are able to churn out some predictions as well, or prescribe something as well. And then you have cognitive analytics, which is the final stage. I've not found this in many other articles, but it's there on the Microsoft website. So cognitive analytics attempts to draw inferences from existing data and patterns, derive conclusions based on existing knowledge bases, and then add these findings back to the knowledge base for future inference. So a self-learning feedback loop. So you draw inference from historical data or existing data, then you derive conclusion, then you feed that output to the model, and then the model learns on its own. So it's a self-learning feedback loop, right? And there are examples here as well. So if you're a student, and or if you're someone who's planning to do the Power BI exam, must read through the documentation. Very interesting. Now, coincidentally, just yesterday on LinkedIn, um, there's a fantastic individual by the name of Brian Julius. Yes, I've been able to find him, and I'm not sure regarding his complete background, but he has 35 years of experience in and around analytics, right, as a core area. He makes posts around data analytics and a lot of posts around his experimentation with generative AI as well, and he's someone you should definitely follow. Just yesterday, he put out a post about you know descriptive analytics, or the descriptive phase of analytics. He shared his experience of how he learned during his early days from his seniors. And I also coincidentally was discussing this with my students yesterday, and I had also shared my thoughts on this, right? So Brian Julius is someone you should definitely follow. Now, why am I spending time on just discussing these four areas of analytics when we are doing it using GPT for with Python? Because irrespective of what tool you're using, you need to know what you want. If you don't know what analysis you want to do, there's no point. So when you talk about descriptive analytics, we just want to report on what has happened, right? Why something has happened, what has happened. So what are my sales, highest performing region, best performing subcategory, worst performing subcategory, top five customers, bottom five customers, all of that. Best selling period, yearly sales trend, monthly sales trend, all of that is descriptive analytics. The why would be identifying why something has happened. So if a particular region has low sales, can I attribute those to a particular product, to a particular subcategory? If the profit for a particular region as a whole is not very high, can I attribute that to the subcategory or to a particular segment, etc. Right? So, or maybe there is something or some correlation to do with sales and discount. So there are different avenues where you can explore this data set. Now, generally, what you can also do is, if you're a student and you don't have a lot of experience, you just want to start getting ideas, you start want to practicing, you start want to getting more sense out of this. I like to do this on GPT, where you specify that I will give you the columns from my data set. Help me with ideas for analysis. Right. Now, this is pretty basic. It will suggest ideas for analysis. I'll specify, let's say, give me five, help me with five ideas for analysis. I will press enter and it will ask me for my columns. I will paste my columns. I will press send and it will give me five ideas for analysis. It says I can look at shipping efficiency and delay analysis. So I can look at the average shipping delay by region. I can look at impact of delayed shipment on profits, identify city states with the longest delays. Now, although I have ship date in this, we don't have any delivery date. So I have order date, I have order to ship, which means from the day that the order was placed, how many days did it take for the shipment to leave my warehouse, for example, or my distributor location. We don't have the actual delivery. So maybe you can look at order to ship, but you can't look at actual delivery. Now, because I've only given my columns, it might not understand everything about my data set. You can also upload your file, but on the free version, you can do it only maybe one or two times. So I'm showing you using the method that you can do it on the free version as well. Then it talks about customer segmentation and sales performance, average sales and profits per segment, which segments respond most positively to discounts, customer spending behavior across different regions and markets, and I can look at different business use case as well. Then it talks about product performance analysis, sales and profitability by category, subcategory, discount impact on profitability. Are high discounts discount products unprofitable? Identify high sales or low profit items, which are loss leaders. Now, and there are more as well. You can look at discount versus profitability as well. Now, the idea to show this example is that typically when you're practicing or you're building your projects, the just don't get on a file, and even if it's, let's say, a pivot table, right? which is one of the tool that is used by everyone for doing analysis. What you can do is, what I've seen people do generally is, or even students, they just drag something. Now I have sales, so I'll keep sales everywhere. I have segment, I'll put my category here. I have my market, I'll put my market here. Voila, analysis done. No, you've created a summary, but why have you created it? What does it mean? Is there some inference or some insight that you want to draw from this summary? Why did you decide to look at your market, your segment, and your category? There has to be a story behind everything. There has to be a reason behind everything, because otherwise, why are you even doing the analysis? So, for people, or for students generally, or for early working professionals, students who've recently joined the corporate and you're in roles where you have to analyze data, my suggestion would be to start working with GPT to get a sense of understanding what analysis questions you can ask from your dataset, because even these questions helps you get a good head start, right? And I've asked for 5, I could ask for 50, it'll give me 50 ideas. Will all of them be absolutely relevant to my dataset? No. So you'll have to still read through the points. Now the idea here is to look at data analysis with Python, so we'll be doing it on Python. Now I have all this this is one method that you can do. Now I'm going to come to a new chat and I'm going to say that I will be needing assistance with generating Python code. I will be running the code on Google Colab. Now, why do I have to specify this? Because there are different environments where you can run Python. So you can run Python on something called Jupyter Notebook. You can run Python on VS Code. You can run Python directly from your command terminal as well. So if you have Python installed locally, but since I don't have, since we're not looking at that right now, Google Colab allows us to run Python on the cloud. So it is important to specify this, because a lot of times a lot of libraries need not be installed in Google Colab. We can directly import them because they're already available on the cloud. So that's why I'm mentioning this. And the interface of Google Colab and how it reads and saves files is slightly different than how you do it locally on your system when you're running Python. So I have to just specify this just to ensure that the code that I get is pertinent and in sync with Google Colab. I will provide the columns from my data set, and then I will discuss with you on what analysis I can perform. That's it. So I'm going to be using GPT as a thought partner, as a brainstorming partner, as an analytics partner, where I'll give it my columns. And now I'm doing columns because if you work for an organization, most probably, even if you have access to the application, you will never upload your own data sets. If you're doing that, you should not do it unless you have approvals. So I'm going to take my, sorry, not my file. I am going to use Windows V shortcut, and I'm going to copy my columns here. Perfect. Now it's saying that, if you want specific insights, or you're looking for, or if you need help with data cleaning, visualization, or modeling, do let me know. Now I don't need to do any data cleaning on this. Typically you would want to do data cleaning and preparation, or even modeling in case you're working with multiple tables before moving to analysis and visualization. So I'm just going to give it my columns for now and see what it does for me. So this is a typical sales transaction data set. It says I can convert date and time, order date and ship date to date time format. I can check for missing values. I can create new time-based columns, order month, order year, delivery time by calculating ship date minus order date. Handle outliers in sales, profit, and quantity. Pretty good suggestions, right? The format I think is okay. There are no missing values in this because it's a sample data set. Sales and performance, I can look at total profit, total sales have changed over time. Top and bottom performing products, identify the best and the worst performing subcategories based on sales and profit. And I can look at market and regional analysis. I can look at customer segmentation, shipping and delivery performance, and I can look at profitability analysis or some advanced analysis. For example, I can do a market basket analysis, identify commonly bought product combinations. Then I can look at sales forecasting, customer lifetime value, or look at RFM analysis, which is recency, frequency, and monetary. So I can segment customers based on their buying behaviors. Now I can do all of this. Now I don't want to go helter-skelter and just pick stuff randomly. So we start with something very basic. Typically when I'm doing analysis in Python, I want to see what my data looks like, right? Now, since I'm on Excel, I can open the Excel file. But since I'm working on Google Colab, and since you'll be working on Google Colab, there are 2-3 methods of how you can upload your file. One is there is a default code available in Google Colab that lets you upload your file. I can ask GPT for that. Give me the default code to upload a file to Google Colab from my system. You can do this, or you can also drag and drop your file in this area. That also works, right? So I could come here, I could drag my file, and I can come and drop it here as well. That would also absolutely work. Or you can use the code as well, which is pretty simple. I can copy the code, I can come back, I'll come here and I'll paste my code. The code is pretty basic. From google.colab import files, uploaded is equal to files.upload. This basically gives you an option to select files from your system, and then it is just going to list the file name, which is nothing but the file that I upload. When I run this code, it might take a few seconds when you're running it for the very first time. I can choose my file and I can come to the relevant folder and choose my file, and once I upload my file, give you a message that this file has been uploaded. That's it. Now you can see the percentage completion here. Like I said, you could have dragged and dropped the file here as well. That would also work. Once the file is uploaded from the code itself, you will see the file present here as well, right? So we'll just wait for this to load. Once I've uploaded my file, I would want to see the first few rows from my data set, right? So I'll mention that as well. Now, when you ask GPT for the default code, it says this is the first one that you can use. And if you're using Google Drive, you can do that as well. Because you're on the Google environment or Google ecosystem, you could upload files from your Google Drive as well. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want to look at the first few rows from my data set. So it says that the file has been uploaded here. If you just refresh here, you should be able to see the, I'm not sure if it is visible here or not, but that's okay. You can see that the file, yeah, it'll come here. It takes a few seconds. You can refresh using this button. So once I've loaded the dataset, now it says that if you have a file in CSV format, you could use this. If you have an Excel file, you could use this. Now, why is it giving me both the options? Because nowhere have I specified whether I'm working with an Excel or whether I'm working with a CSV. Now, I can copy this code. I can come back. Now, you will see that it does not specify that I have to do anything. Now, it says that you can use pandas to load and view the first few rows. Now, pandas is a library available in Python that written for Python programming language for data manipulation and analysis. In particular, it offers data structure and operations for manipulating numerical tables and time series. So it is typically used for data analysis and data manipulation. So I will add a new code block here. I don't need to see the panel on the left. I will add a code block here and I will come and copy the code. Now you'll see that if I copy the code for Excel, which is this one, come back and run this code, it will give me an error. Now, typically when an error happens in Python, a lot of times if the error message is very big, no need to look at the entire error message, just scroll down, look at the final line, right? That is where you will have the description for the error. So name PD is not defined. What does PD mean in this piece of code? Now, here it does not say anything, but if you look at the previous block, it says import pandas as PD, and in this one it does not mention that. So it might assume that I might copy and paste it, but let's come and quickly add that to the code. Now, what happens is when you're importing a particular or referencing a particular library using the alias, you need to first assign that alias or import that alias. So when I say import pandas as PD, I have given the alias PD to pandas, and this PD means nothing but pandas, and read.excel is what I'm using from my pandas library to read the Excel file. Now again, your file name, I have not specified my file name, so I'll have to either type it down here, or in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename my file very quickly because I don't want to have a very long name here. I'll call this sales underscore orders. I'm just going to call it sales underscore orders, and I'm going to minimize this panel, and I'm going to write sales underscore orders here, and I'm going to run this code. Now when I run this code, because the file is already uploaded in the previous step, it is able to read the file and display the first 5 rows. You will see that in the code, nowhere have I specified that I want 5 rows. What happens is df.head typically gives you 5 rows. If we specify 2, it'll give you 2 rows within the parentheses, but by default it will always display the first 5 rows. So when I run this, you should see only first 2 rows, excluding the header obviously, right? You will see row 1 and row 2. If you don't specify anything, by default, it will always display 5 rows. And I'll just wait for this to load. Perfect. Now, you'll see that in Python, indexing or positioning, row position, or row count rather, starts from 0, not 1, which is unlike Excel. Excel has indexing starting from 1 for a lot of formulas. In some newer functions, I'm not sure if 0 works, but negative values work as well. So negative 1 would mean last value. Let's say, for example, in the new take or drop function. But in Python, again, same, negative 1 or negative 5 would mean the last 5 rows. Once I have displayed the first few rows, I can look at or get a preview of my data set, and then I can look at my next block of code. I can add a new code block here. Also, what I like to do is when I'm working in Colab is I'll click on the first code block. I'll add a text block here. I will move this to the top. I'll double click and I'll say upload file from system. I like to have text because it makes it easy when I share the notebook with someone. It makes it easy for them to understand the code. I'm going to add a text block here as well. And I'm going to write display first 5 rows. So that person who's not accustomed to the code as well is able to understand it very easily. I'm going to add a new code block now, or rather a new text block. And in the next one, I want to show you something called descriptive. Even before descriptive statistics, I want to look at the data types of my column. Data types. I'll tell you what the code for that is. Pretty straightforward. But just to address one thing here, you will see that import pandas as PD. Then I've written, the GPT gave me the code as df is equal to pd.read excel, and I wrote my file name here, and the extension was already present. Now, df equal to means I'm assigning the or storing the data from the Excel inside that df. Df typically stands for data frame. You could write anything else that you wanted here, but generally we refer to it as a data frame. So df is just basically for storing that what or whatever you write. Equal to means is like a variable assignment, right? So you're storing the value inside the term df. In Python, an actual equal to is used or referred to as double equal to. Now let's come to the next code where I can look at the data types for the columns that I have. So because my data is stored in the data frame, which is df, I can write df.info and I can run this. This will display the data type of my columns, which is also very relevant because when you're doing analysis, for example, if I was working with order date or ship date, I need to also understand how many values I have in that column, how many are null, and what is the data type of that column. So df.info tells me a basic description of the data set. How many count, what is the count, what are the null values in case there are any. In this case, we don't have any null values. And what is the data type? So I have a date time, I have an object, I have a float 64, which essentially is an integer decimal value, number and decimal. And int 64 is a whole number, no decimal values. So the quantity is going to be int 64. The other three, which is sales, discount, and profit, will be float 64. And once you get familiarity with these terms in Python, you will find that tomorrow if you have to learn R, SQL, whatever other it is, there will always be an overlap in terms of the terminology sometimes for the data type, for example, or maybe for a function, etc. So for different things, you'll have different overlaps. The idea is that, for example, when I started learning SQL, I did not jump into SQL. In fact, on my YouTube channel, I can show you that when I was learning SQL and I read a quick book on it, I don't remember the name of the book, but I read a book on SQL, then I started practicing, and I have a playlist which does not have a lot of videos, but I think it has around 10 videos. But my whole point here was that I do something in Excel and then I show how to do that same thing in SQL. That was the whole point of this playlist. So I was getting a better understanding of SQL through that as well. So df.info will give me the description. Similarly, if I want to describe, if I want to get some basic descriptive statistics, I can do it using another piece of code, which is df.describe, if I'm not wrong. So I can write df.describe, and this is the text block. descriptive statistics. I can add a code block. I can write df dot describe, and I can run this. Oh, sorry, I misspelled describe, and it'll tell me a basic descriptive statistics for the dataset, right, across all the columns. Now it does not do it for the text columns, obviously, because on text column I can't do min, max, average, etc. So it tells me only for the date, time, and the numerical columns. So it tells me the count, tells me the mean, minimum value, maximum value, standard deviation, or 25th percentile, 50th percentile, and 75th percentile. I'm assuming this is percentile. If you're not sure what it is, you can always go to GPT and double check. Now, these are some terms that I'm aware of, some pieces of code that I'm aware of. I in no way claim to be an expert in Python, but the idea, like I said again, here is to help you get started with data analysis in Python. Now, once I have gotten a sense of what data I have, what is the minimum value, maximum value, what are the data types, what columns am I working with, I would want to, let's say, do some basic analysis. Let's say I want to create a or look at my sales across all the 4 years. So I will sales by year, and I will add a code block, and I'll come to GPT and I'll say, thanks, I want to look at sales by year as a table. I don't want to visualize it right now. So it says that I can group by sales, obviously, because I'm working with the transactional data set. I have 51,000 records. I want to ensure that I first look at my data at a group level. So I want year, from the year I want total sales for each year, and then I want to display that. So it's giving me the code in different steps, which is absolutely great. Now I am able to get the first code block, which is that the data type of the column is correct, which we've already verified in the previous step that it is in the date time format, so I don't need to do this step essentially. Then it specifies that I want to look at my year and aggregate sales. I do something called a group by. Now group by is available in SQL. Group by as a function is available in Excel as well. So the function might work differently, which means it might take different arguments. The syntax might be different, but the function does the same thing. It groups data by whatever parameter you specify and aggregates value for one numerical column. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come back and I'm going to paste this code. And before I run the code, just quickly explain. Sales by year is just a name that you can give any name that you want, okay? And df is my data set. On my data set, I'm performing group by. But which columns am I using for the group by? Because I have too many columns. So I'm saying that from the data frame, I want to do a group by on order date dot year. This is extracting the year from the order date, and my sales. But for my sales, I want to do a sum. So dot sum. Reset index is basically going to make the first column an index column. Otherwise, my year becomes my first column. Then I'm just saying sales by year dot columns, and I'm displaying the value in columns, which is year and total sales. When I run this and I display, one second, sales by year, that is the result that I want to see. I will get my sales by year. This is just to see the resulting value. This is executing the code, but it will not display the output. So I'm able to get this as the output. If I don't use this part, which is reset.index, what essentially happens is my year becomes my first column, which is not something that I want. So when I run it without the reset.index, you'll see that my year becomes my first column. So I want to have an index column, hence I am doing this. So what reset index basically does is, because right now my index starts from 0 till 51 to 91, which is the total number of records that I have. But since I'm only looking at 4 rows now, which are aggregated by sales by year, I'm able to get this sort of an output. So I'm looking at my year and I'm looking at my total sales. Now, let's say I want to visualize my total sales as a column chart. So I can come back and I can see that you don't need to get this part, or you don't need to mention as a table here, because it's going to ask you to import certain other libraries which are not relevant as of now, or you don't need them as of now. You can just write the final variable where you're storing the entire group data, and it will display that for you. And here you just rename the columns because you have two columns. if I remove this part and I run this code, the columns will be called order date and sales. You're just renaming the columns in the output that is present at the bottom. That's why order date is being renamed as year, sales is being renamed as total sales. That's it. Now, if you want to visualize this as a column chart, you can come and say, I want to now visualize my year and sales as a bar chart, and it'll give you a simple piece of code. Typically, when you're doing any visualization, there are two libraries that you very commonly use. Stop. Now, because I'm in the paid version, it starts writing some code here, which I don't know why it is doing, because it will not be able to give me an output because I haven't uploaded my dataset. Give me my year and sales as a bar chart. I hope that does not start writing code. I just want a simple output, which is the code. Okay, I'm not sure why it is creating this for me. I never asked for this, but yeah, as GPT at the end of the day, it's not obviously going to execute because it does not have any data, but it is giving me the code in this Python block. Earlier, all the codes it gave me as a normal output, right? So it says that sales by year is not defined. So it's trying to generate the code with a bar chart, which is something that I don't want. So I'm just going to copy this entire piece of code, and I'm going to come back and I am going to add a new text block. I'm going to call this visualize sales by year, and I'm going to add a code block now after the text block, and I'm going to paste this. Now in this you're importing matplotlib, and from matplotlib you're importing pyplot. Now matplotlib is a library available in Excel for in Python for visualization. Pyplot is, I'm not very sure, I'll have to double check once. Pyplot is a collection of command shell functions that make matplotlib work like MATLAB. Each pyplot makes them change to figures, create a figure, creates a plotting area. Okay, so in what is the function of pyplot in Python? For creating a variety of 2D plots. So from matplotlib, I'm importing pyplot, and I'm just giving it a name plt because I don't want to use matplotlib.pyplot again and again. Now the code is pretty straightforward. You don't want to use that entire part here, so you just say plt.figure. So you specify the figure size, which is the height and the width. Then you specify what will be on the x-axis, what will be on the y-axis, what will be the edge color. Then you're just specifying labels here, which is what is the x-axis label, y-axis label, title of the chart. And if you wanted to look at the ticks, which is show all the years, and then you will have to write plt.show to display the chart. Now I can press send. Now remember, year and total sales has already been defined in my previous code, so this code knows what those terms mean. I can run this and I will have a simple sales by year visualized in front of me, right? There we go, as simple as that. Now again, I don't mean to undermine the effort it takes to study Python, learn Python, and write code from scratch. This is essentially a tutorial or a recap for my students, plus who don't come from a programming background. But if you're someone who's more interested, it is encouraged that you go and study Python in detail, right? But use generative AI effectively wherever possible. Having a foundational understanding is what makes your knowledge more stronger, and your application of the technology also more stronger. Perfect. Now that we have the visual, let's move on to some other type of analysis. Now, you can still go back and make minor modifications to this code. For example, you wanted to add data labels, you could add data labels. You want the bars to be of different colors, you want to add some other color scale, etc., etc., etc. You can do all of that analysis. Now, if you want to identify something specific, let's try to do that. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to specify that to GPT that I want to identify subcategories with high sales and low profit. Low profit. I want to also, let's first do this and then we look at something else. So you want to look at subcategories with high sales and low profit. Now we learned a concept some time back, which is group by, which allows us to group the data. Now because I'm going to be working on the transactional data set, which is 51,000 records, whatever other column I'm referring, whether it is subcategory, category, I have to do a group by everywhere, right? So you will see that for subcategory, we have a group by over here, right? And yeah, for subcategory also, we have a group by right here, right? I'm going to group by subcategory, then I'm aggregating by sales and my profit. So I don't need the entire code. I'm just going to copy this for now. Okay, we have the code here. I'm going to copy this, come back, and in a new code block, so I'm going to add a text block first so that we're able to differentiate between the code. This is going to be subcategory analysis. So I want to look at subcategory with high amount of sales and low amount of profit. I don't need this last line for Ace Tools. I can simply run this block of code and hopefully I should have an output. Now I will have to just display this line at the end so that I can see the result. So it says that tables is one subcategory with the highest sales and the lowest profit. So I'm able to identify that this is one subcategory. I could do some other analysis. I could display all the subcategories and look at their sales and the profit. So what is essentially happening here is that you are first ensuring that the columns are correctly formatted, which I don't think was relevant in this case, because without that also I should have gotten the answer because my data is pretty structured. Then I am grouping the subcategory. I'm using sales and profit. I'm doing a sum because if you remember earlier where we had done a group by right here, you had sales dot sum. Now because you're aggregating by multiple columns, you use a different syntax, dot aggregate, agg for aggregate, and then you have sales. What do you want to do? Sum. Profit you want to sum. Define high sales as above the median and low profit as below the median. It is doing exactly that. Sales median. Now if I remove this part, okay, if I were to just copy this, add a new code block, and if I don't want to look at all my or only single value, I can remove this identifier. I can remove this and I can just look at my subcategory level analysis and I can run this and I will have subcategory, I will have sales, I will have profit. Now this obviously will not be sorted by the sales or by the profit, but I can look at individual values as well. So now I'm able to make these minor modifications in the code because I have more familiarity. I keep on practicing, I keep on experimenting, I also keep on trying new things, right? Because for me also there's a lot to learn in Python in different technologies. So I like to keep on experimenting. And as you get comfortable, you should be able to make these minor modifications in the code for yourself as well. So the previous code was able to tell us that tables is one subcategory with the highest sales and the lowest profit. And then I have subcategory sales and profit. Now I'm going to copy this code, which is right here, right? And I'm going to come to GPT and I'm going to specify that can you suggest a visual where I can see both sales and profit together? Should be easy to analyze visually. Now, visuals are another area where if you don't know exactly what visual you want, you might create something that is not relevant. You might not know what to create and spend a lot of time identifying what you want to create. So it is always important to rely on maybe GPT or some other guide to understand what visual is best suited for what kind of data. So here you can see that it is recommending that a bar chart with a dual axis, one for sales and other for profit, would be effective way to visualize both metrics together. This will allow you to easily compare sales profit across subcategories. So it's saying that sales is going to be represented as bars, profit is going to be represented as line on the secondary y-axis. I am going to copy the code. I'm going to come back and in a new code block, in fact, let me add my text block here, edit this quickly, sales and profit for subcategory. Let me come back here, add a text block and edit this as well. Subcat, sales and profit. And for this as well, sorry, I don't need a link here. Highest profit, lowest sales. Yeah, okay, I have renamed all that, and now let's come and paste our code here. um, since I've already imported matplotlib somewhere earlier where I created the bar chart, I don't need to import libraries again and again in the same Google Colab notebook, right? But because I'll be using the word PLT here, I need to have that. But I don't think I'll need to have it in this particular code block because I've defined PLT earlier, so I don't have to do it again and again. It is sorting my data for better analysis, which is great. So I'm going to do a sort by my sales. Ascending is false, which means it's going to be a descending sort, largest to smallest. Create the figure and the axis. So it's creating the figure and the axis. There's the width and the height and the width. Then I'm defining what will be my bar. So that'll be the subcategory by the sales and what color should be assigned. Then x-axis label is subcategory, y-axis label is total sales. Then it's creating the second axis. You will see the word twin here, right? Because I have a primary axis, I have a secondary y-axis as well, where I'll have subcategory and profit, and that's going to be a line chart, and I'm going to call it total profit. The title of the chart is going to be sales and profit by subcategory. I can run this and I will have something like this, right? Very effective. Let me just zoom out a bit so that we're able to see the entire visual together. Great. So we can clearly see that phones, which has the highest sales, does not necessarily have the highest profit. Subcategories such as appliances, which are at the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th position, have a higher profit than storage, which has slightly higher profit than everything else. Tables, for one, is doing very bad, and uh, accessories is one subcategory that has low sales but highest profit compared to all the other subcategories below it in terms of overall sales, right? So pretty good visual that helps us analyze sales and profit and the relationship. Now, um, to, this depends on what analysis you want to do further. For example, I want to understand why tables as a subcategory is performing very bad. So I'm going to come to GPT and get some ideas on if I want to identify where tables are being sold, which four or which segments are purchasing table the maximum in terms of the quantity or the transaction value. Let's try to identify that. So I want to do a deep dive into tables subcategory. I want to understand. I want to understand if the in what region or maybe segment is tables being sold. So I have three customer segments: consumer, home office, and I think technology. And I want to identify. So I'm applying a filter first. You'll see that we're applying a filter here on the data frame. So from the data frame, which is the entire data frame, I want to choose subcategory column and equal to wherever subcategory is equal to tables. I hope tables is written as tables and not table. And okay, it just tries to run the code again and again over here, and because here it has not created a data frame earlier, it just tries to do that again and again, which is not required. Oh, okay, I just need this 2 lines of code. I don't need the third one, which is ace tools. Come back and I'm going to add a new code block. First text block, tables deep dive, then add a new code block. And so I'm first filtering the data for from subcategory only for tables, and then I'm doing a group by on segment, and I'm doing a sales and a profit. And I will also want to see my output, so I'll display that here. Able to see that consumer has the highest sales for tables. I'm going to zoom in now. No visual here. Okay, and it has a depth of 24,000. Corporate has the second highest sales with 29,000, and home office has the lowest sales for tables with a low profit, which is considerably understandable. Let's look at corporate and consumer specifically. You can do a deep dive into that as well. So now what I can do is I can come back and say that corporate has high sales or has highest sales for table, and second in terms of negative profit after, what was that, corporate. So this was consumer. Consumer has highest sales for table and second in terms of profit after corporate. Suggest what other data points I can deep dive or look at to get a sense of what is driving. Just one second, let me connect my charger. Yeah, what is driving sales for tables? So a lot of times, because I said at the beginning, I'm going to be using GPT as an analytics partner, as a thought partner. So since tables has high sales but negative profit, especially for consumer and corporate, so consumer 381, 24, and then corporate 2459. Okay. Here are some key data points. I can look at discount. Are high discounts driving sales but reducing profit? So I can look at average discount percentage for sales across segments and compare discount levels with sales and profit trends. Let's try to do that. Copy the code and we'll try that. If higher discounts correlate with low profits, reducing discounts might improve margins. Now that's a recommendation. Obviously, I have no one to give a recommendation to because I'm working on a fictional data set, but this is a good way of analyzing this. So relation, again, tables, relation between discount and sales. I'm going to add a code block now and I'm going to add my code. We don't need this display part, which requires ACE tools. We can directly display our output here. So we're calculating average discount for tables across segments. So you'll see that we're aggregating discount mean, which is the average, sales as a sum, and profit as a sum. And we're able to see that I think discount is a percentage. Let me quickly go back to the top and see what the discount column is. I'm not sure if it is the actual value or the percentage. Let me just double check that. 1 second, and let me just look at the file once. I don't remember. I don't think it is the value. It's percentage is what I'm assuming. If I just look at tables as a subcategory in my file, we have discount ranging from 0 to say 85%. And if I offer an 85% discount, my sales was this and my profit was, the quantity was 4. Okay, so I think discount is a percentage. So I'm going to come back to GPT and specify that my discount column is not an actual value column and it's a percentage column. So where it is taken the discount mean, it cannot take mean for a column that has decimal values because that is actually the percentage of discount. So I'm going to say that discount is a percentage column in my dataset. So directly copying and pasting code does not make a lot of sense if you don't understand what is there in the code. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to get a sense, come to the last part, just show you what we're talking about. So you can see the discount is in decimal values, which does not make sense. Our discount was given on top of sales. Now this sales typically is after discount is what I would like to assume here, because again we don't have that information present in this data set. So if I quickly double check, so second, okay, so this is total sales and then we have quantity and then we have discount and then we have profit. Now we can look at sales per unit. That'll give us unit price. Discount is a percentage value in this case, so let's look at it that way itself. So we'll have to calculate the discount column, discount amount rather, on our sales. Now again, that is not given here, so I'm just making an assumption. In your case, you would obviously know if you're doing a real world analysis, you would know that whether your column has discount included or excluded. In this case, we don't know, so we'll quickly validate that. So average discount given per customer, total sales and profit in each segment. See if discounts, since discount is a percentage discount only in a decimal value, 20% would, we would analyze how discount levels impact sales and profit. How does discount impact profit? Is there a discount thresholds where profits start to decline, or do higher discounts drive more sales but lower profits? Let's look at these analysis. So average discount given per segment for tables. So we're looking at a segment level analysis. So let's come back, and we don't need this last part. And here what it is doing is it is multiplying it by 100 to convert to it to a percentage. And we are going to run this, and we're able to see the overall discount. It's giving me the same result. I want to calculate the discount amount rather. So can we calculate now? Again, GPT cannot identify all this because it does not have my data. So I have to give it these inputs. If I had uploaded my file, it would have given me all these suggestions as well. The discount value on sales, because I think in my data set the sales is not after, or sales is after discount. Now again, it will agree to what I say because it does not have the data set, right? So we will quickly, now perfect. So wherever discount is 0, it is going to avoid division by 0 for errors. So we'll first do this step so that we're able to get the discount amount. Then everywhere else we can use the discount amount rather than having to use the other code. So this is tables underscore data, which is a data frame, and I should be able to get the output, and I have the discount value right here. So my sales was 2106, and I had a discount of 0.2. Then here, for example, sales was 573, discount is 0.2, that's 20%. Perfect. Now that I have this new data frame, so I'll not be using DF anymore, I'll be using this data frame. Now we can compare discount value across segments, which was the earlier code. So we can always modify the previous code as well, which was, I think, not this, it was it this one? Now I can look at the column, it's called discount value because I've created that in the previous step. Then I can have the average discount value, and I should be able to get a result. Okay, I'll have to display this here, and I can run this, and I should be able to see the discount value, average discount. This is at a transaction level. Let's look at the mean for each of these. Is the average profit. So average discount value, so discount is pretty high in this scenario, right? And corporate is where the average transaction or the average profit is also quite high. Then does high discount value relate with low profit? We can look at this as the next level of analysis. Now for this, it's going to visualize my data. So I'm going to, it's creating a scatter plot. Resuming, yeah. And I am going to copy this code. One second. I'll copy this code, come back and add a new code block, and I will look at the code. So we already have Seaborn is another library used for data visualization, and I don't think we should get an error here. We're looking only at 3 segments, so total profit is high, and correlation between discount value and profit. Are you looking only at segments? Yeah, and because we have three segments, it is only able to plot 3 points on the chart. You can always take a screenshot of this, come back to GPT and see that you want to look at the final output. We are able to see that there's a minus 0.4 correlation, which is this value that is being displayed, negative 0.4. Negative trend between total discount value and total profit, so that as discount value increases, total profit tends to decrease. However, there is only few data points likely due to limited number of segments, so the correlation might not be strong or statistically significant, like I said. If you want to calculate the correlation separately, you can use the correlation coefficient formula. Let's try to do that as well. So I can insert a new code block, run this. That says the correlation coefficient is 0.4, a negative 0.4. So it says the values near 0 means no clear relationship. A value closer to -1 indicates a strong negative correlation. So instead of aggregating at a segment level, analyze the relationship at an order level. This is also something that we could do. So when you say order level, you're looking at a transaction level across the entire data set. So we could try to do this as well here, because we already have the correlation coefficient at the top. I don't need to calculate it again. I don't need to import the libraries again because I already have them imported. So we're plotting discount and profit, and you can see that a lot of cases we have discount and profit mentioned here. So profit is on the y-axis here, we have discount on the x-axis, and again I can take a quick screen snapshot, come back, specify this to GPT and get a quick summary of what it is able to understand from this. So there's a clear negative trend that higher discounts are strongly correlated with lower profits. So as discount value increases, profits tend to decrease, often going negative. This is a deep discounts are eroding profit margins. Main data points in the lower right quadrant at high discount and negative profit confirm that high discount orders tend to be unprofitable. Right over here, higher profit. This is a higher discount value as well, and yeah, we could look at this as well, which is find the discount percentage where profit turns negative. Very interesting. You could come back and do this analysis as well. So you don't need this part. I can just have this as the output mentioned here, and I can run this, and you'll see that it is doing a grouping for me, rather creating bins for me for discounts. So 0 to 10%, 10 to 20%. So you can see that anywhere where the discount goes above 20%, right, which is very interesting. Wherever the discount goes above 20%, that is when my profit starts to go negative, right? You could always come back and give this to GPT, and like if you want a nicely written summary as I had done earlier, you can do that from here as well. So you could come and specify to GPT that output, and you can see that anything with above 20% is where the profits generally tend to become negative. So anything below 20% is profitable, above 20% is leading to losses. 50% discounts are extremely unprofitable. So wherever you have 50% or 100% discounts, that should ideally not be the case in a real world scenario, but that is what is happening here. Can we look at this specifically for tables? Yes, you can. So I could come back to the top and I could specify that I would look at this only for tables. I have that piece of code somewhere here which is applying a simple filter, which is this. I could add that here at the top. Just look at data only for tables, and this is data only for tables, and you have a similar trend here for tables as well. Tables has been maybe receiving the highest discount rates, hence leading to more negative profit. Like I said, we have consider discount policy thresholds. Consider capping discount 20% to avoid making loss making sale. This is just recommendation that this is giving me. Find specific orders with 30+% discount range that are driving losses. because now we've identified that anything below 20% discount is not, or up to 20% discount is not causing a problem for us. Let's look at orders where the discount is more than 30% or more than 20% in this case. So here I can look at high discount losses, tables data, discount more than 30. We can sort the values by profit, and we can get a quick output from this as well. That last line is not required. It is just going to display your data as a table data frame. So if you look at, and again, there are 351 rows. Okay, so out of 51,000 transactions, there are 51 records, right, where you're able to see that the profit offered was greater than 30%, right, and there are a lot of negatives. Now if you want to do a better analysis on this, you could, now pricing strategy is always recommendation. We're not going to do that in Python. We can create a visualization to show the profit decline, which sounds interesting. Let's try to do this. Again, you have to decide what analysis you want to do. I picked tables as a subcategory. I want to do a deep dive into tables. Maybe I'm the product manager or like the category manager for tables, and I'm being asked questions about why I'm not able to turn up a profit. If you're someone who takes care of an entire region, you would not be focused on one subcategory. You would be focused on the entire region. So totally depends. So when you're doing projects or building projects as well, whether it is on Python, Power BI, Excel, whatever the tool is, adopt a persona, a personality, whether you're someone who's handling an entire region, handling an entire category, subcategory, etc., and then do your analysis, right? I am going to copy the code and come back. I know I've not added text blocks here, but that's okay. I'm going to add a new code block, and I'm going to, I don't need to have this. So I'm getting discount ranges, which is something that I created at the top here. One second, do I have discount bins created? Yeah, I think I have the discount bins created. I have the actual profit values, and we have just getting the discount bins. So you're able to visualize what we were seeing earlier, which is this table. We're able to visualize that as well. So when discounts are in the range of 0.0 to 10%, 10 to 20%, we are profitable. As discounts start increasing, the profit starts decreasing, right? If you want to get a count of the orders, we could do that as well. I want to get the count of orders in all discount bins for each segment. You could look at this as well, that which segment, for which segment within which discount bucket are the highest number of transactions happening, right? You could look at that analysis as well. Again, it's a simple group by, but the aggregation is going to be a count. We can copy the code. We don't need the second part, that's not required, like I said earlier. I'm not sure why it's giving me again and again. This library h2 is not relevant here. We don't need it because I'm able to get the output directly here. So I'm doing a group by on discount and segment, and I'm getting the orders. I'm going to run this. Okay, no, I want to aggregate. I don't want this as a result. Okay, the count was not present in the earlier code. We want to do that together. So you want to have this code rather than the earlier one. The earlier one was just, what was this code doing? Discount bins and then count the number. This one is not counting. I mean, it tells me that within 0.01, so it's going to give me these 17 records, but I don't think this is all of it. Am I looking only at tables? Have I filtered only for tables? I'm not sure. Let's come back to the previous line. Let's remove this part and let's run this. Okay, maybe because I filtered here only for tables, that is what the output was showing. Let's quickly run this as well. No, I don't think there was a change in the output. So for up to 10% discounts for the three categories, we have an order count of 3, which I'm not sure is absolutely correct, again because we have many records. Is there a filter that is being applied here? Okay, maybe we're looking at only above 30% because that is a filter that we had applied somewhere earlier, which was right here. So if I change this to this and I run this, I don't think I need to run that, and I run this. Okay, I don't think that has anything to do with this. Let's come back and specify that I want to count the orders in the discount. So let's try this piece of code, which is going to allow me to get a count as well. Let's do a discount segment count. It's giving me the same thing which the earlier code was giving. So I'm just going to come back and ask that how many orders fall in each discount bin for each segment, which segments are using the highest discounts. Shouldn't I want to count all rows in my data? Because right now I don't think it is counting all rows. Okay, now it is just going to tell me the count data and then bifurcate in segment and discount segment as per discount buckets. Let's see what output we get. So I'm getting the total count and then I'm just getting the result. Let's see if this is able to get the output, or else I'll quickly come to GPT, spend maybe 10-15 seconds writing prompt correctly and then get the output. No, okay, 1 second. I'll have to maybe give it a screenshot saying that this is not what I want. I want to see the discount bins and the 3 segments. That's it. And the total count of rows in each segment within or for each within each discount bin. Maybe it is not able to understand what I wanted earlier because not sure what this count was showing. Yeah, now it's going to do it. So aggregate order counts for each discount bin across segments. So it's going to create a summary because now segments will be appearing only 3 times, not more than that. Come back and run this. Yeah, this is what I wanted. Perfect. So we're able to see that for different discount bins, what are the number of orders, and I'm still not sure why this number of orders is so low. Let's come back and ask what it is showing inside that piece of code. The total orders per segment, and what is it doing here? Aggregate order counts for each discount bin across all segments, and I think it's doing the same thing here. You will get clean table, number of orders per segment. I don't think this is the total count of orders in my table, or from my table rather. Like I said, use GPT as your thought partner. If you feel that the output that you want is not coming correctly, then come back, instruct GPT that the output is not correct. Might not be the actual number, like I said, because the group by operation only shows a breakdown within the discount bill but does not include the grand total. So verify the order count. So total orders in my table. Let's quickly verify how many records I have in my overall table. So since I have total orders in tables subcategory. Okay, I filtered table somewhere. Like I was saying, we filtered table somewhere, hence we're not able to get the total count. Right? So let's come back quickly and remove that filter. I'm not sure where I applied the filter, but I've applied a filter somewhere. And because that filter is applied on my data frame, I think I need to remove that. This is tables underscore data. Am I using tables underscore data everywhere? Did I do it here? If I remove this, I can see it for everything. Okay, if I run this piece of code now, will that give me a better output? Okay, I don't know where I filtered for tables, but that's not the correct result. Correct the order count calculation. Instead of using dot value counts dot unstack, we should probably sum the orders count per discount bin and segment. Okay, so right now I don't think it was doing the sum because I'm pretty sure these all don't add up to 861, even if I'm looking only at tables. So just to ask, why was the earlier code not displaying or not adding up to the actual total count? So if you don't understand something, please ask GPT, because this is a time where you can learn and understand why it was not able to do something for you, so that you are able to, because how values underscore count dot unstack works. So why didn't the earlier output add up correctly? Because the previous approach, it does not sum up correctly across categories. It calculates within each discount bin for each segment separately, and when unstacked, some segments might not have entries for center bins, and if a segment had no orders in a discount, might have been dropped before summarizing. Okay, so to ensure accurate order count, we explicitly count rows using the dot size function. Let's come back, let's see, sorry, let's get the output now. So you'll see that earlier it was using, I think, a value dot count dot unstack over here, and now it is using a dot size, and now it is just repeating it again multiple times. But like I said, you'll have to keep going a little back and forth. Now if I am not able to get the correct output, I will go to fresh chat and start, because I have tried to do it here again and again, and is not able to generate the correct output for me. Now I'm not sure where I filtered for tables, right? So I'm going to say that there is a filter applied on subcategory. I can't find it. I want to remove it. So it's going to give me maybe a code that first if you want to remove this filter, check this subcategory is filtered, run the following code, and let's quickly see if we have that filtered somewhere. So we're able to see the correct dataset count now. Okay, I am able to see all the subcategory values, which seems fairly okay, right? So I'm going to take a pause now. I'm not going to spend any more time on this, but like I said, you get the idea of how you would want to approach this analysis. You could do a lot of different things. You could do forecasting, you could do a lot of other things as well. But the idea is to pick one thing, assume a role. That is what I like to do. So I assumed the role of a, which I told you very later because I thought of that later. But like I assumed the role of a category manager for tables. If you are looking at the entire geography, entire region, you can do that as well. Do not just try to populate or visualize everything. Do not try to analyze every data point. Doesn't make sense. Build a story, because when you're communicating that in the interview that you've done a project, that this is part of your portfolio, you will have a story to tell as well. Otherwise, you're just like everyone else. You've created a project, you're demonstrating the project, but you don't have a story to tell. And people like to hear stories, and data is all about narratives and stories. Right? So I'm going to take a pause now. I hope you got a quick sense of what you're trying to do. In the end, I got a little carried away and spent a lot of time on this. But like I said, we are able to get some good outputs, and I think that is how we were able to, yeah. I think I'd applied a filter here because I had not run this. Maybe that is why we're not able to get the output. Perfect, that's okay for now. I am going to download this Quillam notebook and share it with my students. I don't think I'll be sharing it on YouTube specifically, but like I said, I've not written any code from scratch. All code was written in GPT, as you can see, and I was trying to do an analysis, right? I hope this gave you, or if you had a fear of programming or had never thought about it, I hope this gave you some introduction in terms of how you can utilize generative AI. Like I said, you would still need to go and study, you would still need to go and understand, you would still need to go and know exactly what is happening, validate results, understand. Your ability to write code from scratch is not very important, but your ability to understand everything is important. But with, with that said, you would still have to practice and build projects where you would have to, do a bit of coding yourself as well, right? But knowing Python is great because now Python is available in Excel as well. That's what I would like to end the video with. So when I go to formulas, I have Python in Excel as well, right? So you can write Python code inside Excel cell by writing equal to py. So whatever analysis I did on Google Colab, I could have essentially done it directly in my Excel notebook. So if you're someone who works a lot with Excel but has never touched upon Python, please start using Python, um, and start learning Python now. So because eventually people will expect, companies will expect users to know this. And if you have a foundation understanding, and if you start practicing, build projects, you will be able to get a good head start. You can also look at the Anaconda blogs. On the Anaconda blogs, there are different articles on how Python Excel can be used for finance, how it can be used for supply chain, how it can be used for different other topics. I am just going to show you the blog once. Maybe in resources, I have blogs here, and yeah, you'll have to find a bit. Uh, okay, I'll have to maybe go to the second page. So you have Python and Excel for supply chain, Python Excel for retail and e-commerce industry. There are different examples. Come, try out these examples. Get a sense of how you can utilize Python and Excel directly, right? So there is a simple code that you can run if you have a table with these customer reviews. You can do a sentiment analysis by importing the NLTK corpus, right? You can define positive negative words, right, if you don't want to rely on additional libraries, and you can visualize the sentiment analysis as well. You can do a sales trend analysis. You can load the sales data. Remember, all this code is being written inside your Excel cells, right? And using the Anaconda toolbox, you can visualize this as well, right? So something for you to definitely give a try. And I hope you enjoyed the video or got a good sense of how you're supposed to utilize generative AI for data analysis using Python and run code on Google Colab. Thank you for watching the video.